everybody, it's Mrs. Pound, and we are studying Chapter 8 on the history of life from BJU Biology's 4th edition. In this video, we're going to start talking about Section 8b on biological evolution. And we're going to start with subsection 8.3 on the beginnings of evolutionary theory. So our objectives for this video will be to understand the development of ideas about an old Earth, relate changing views of geology to the emergence of evolutionary theories, and list Lamarck's theories. Before the Enlightenment, people accepted what the Bible told them about the age of the earth, and they believed in what was called a parent age. And this is a feature of God's creation where man, plants, and animals were created in their mature forms, and earth was created with the appearance of age. It would only make sense that God would create in this way because if he created everything where the trees were immature and the plants were just starting to grow and everything, and man was just a baby, well, nobody was there to take care of the man. I suppose God could have, but no, there was no mother for the man. There would have been no food because the food would not have been ripe because it was just starting to grow and everything. And so it was widely accepted that the earth was just created with a parent age so that it could already meet the needs of the man and all of the animals that were on the earth. So creation with a parent age is supported by Adam being able to take care of himself and eat fruit from trees when he was created. According to young Earth creationists, the probable age of the Earth is 6,000 to 7,500 years. And as I said, this would have been believed by most people up until the 18th century. In the 18th century, during the Enlightenment, they were finding a lot of fossils, and a fossil is any evidence or remains of an organism preserved in the Earth's crust. And what they were noticing about the fossils was some of the fossils looked like organisms that were alive now, but they were just a little bit different. So the people got to thinking about why would they be a little different, or how would they change over time? And so they were thinking these changes would have either happened very rapidly if it was a young Earth, or could have happened more gradually if the Earth was older. And so as people were looking at these fossils, there were also some theories being proposed by geologists. One of those geologists was James Hutton. And James Hutton said that the earth had come out of the sea and it had returned to the sea many times over the history of the earth. And he was basing this on the fact that there were fossils of sea creatures found even on very high mountains. And then Charles Lyell developed the doctrine of uniformitarianism, which uses the present natural processes to explain the past. And he said that the present is the key to the past, that the processes happening now were the processes that happened in the past, and they happened very gradually, that there was erosion and deposition, and there was mountain building, but it was happening very slowly. Now, one thing we have to understand about most of these men is that they were deists. They believed that a God did create the earth, but then he let it go on its own. There would be no possibility of any supernatural events like a worldwide flood where that God would have been involved in earth activities after he created it. So supernatural events like a huge global flood just were not a possibility in their mind. And I think, too, when we do take a look at events like floods and volcanic eruptions and events such as that, they actually are very destructive and they can cause huge changes in the landscape that don't happen as quickly with just the normal slow processes going on. So keep that in mind as we continue to study evolution. So, as the geologists were making these discoveries, it became possible then for others who were studying biology to come up with theories of evolution. So if the processes forming the earth are slow and the earth was formed longer ago than we thought because of those slow processes, well, maybe then there is enough time for gradual change to happen in Earth's organisms. And so, one of the first theories of evolution was proposed by Jean Baptiste Lamarck, and he had three parts to his theory. The first part was the theory of need, and he showed this with giraffes. He thought that giraffes started as much shorter animals with short necks, more like a horse. And because there was a drought, they needed to reach the leaves at the top of a tree. So they stretched their necks, and because they needed to reach those leaves, they changed and so that they would then have longer necks. He also stated the theory of use and disuse. This is that an organ that is not used, would disappear from the species. And because they were using their long necks and they had this need, the long neck got passed on to their offspring through use. And finally, there was the theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics. This is illustrated by a child being born with natural artistic ability because the mother had taken painting lessons. And just like that illustration, the giraffes, because their mother now had a long, stretched out neck, that characteristic was then passed down to their offspring. Now, taking a look at each of these theories, we now can see that these are not true. First of all, as far as the theory of need is concerned, I myself could really use being a little bit taller to reach things. But no matter how much I stretch, I have not grown so that I can reach the top shelf. Also, the theory of use and disuse, as far as that is concerned, we have what are called vestigial organs that we do not use. The appendix was thought to be one, and just because we haven't used it does not mean that it has disappeared, although they have found uses for the appendix, so I guess you could argue that we do use it. Also, as far as inheritance of acquired characteristics, if a man was a weightlifter and he built very strong muscles, that doesn't mean his child will be born with big muscles. Now, there may be something in his genes that predisposes him to have the ability to build those muscles, but unless he puts the work in, it won't happen. So our objectives today were to understand the developments of ideas about an old Earth, relate changing views of geology to the emergence of evolutionary theories, and list Lamarck's theories. Don't forget your 5 questions in your notes and keep watching the video to answer the questions at the end.